Hello and welcome back to the RotoWire Esports Show. I'm Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton. Today, talk about Tuesday's two-game LPL slate. Ethan, we really nailed Monday's slate.
No, it was a tough one. I mean, I personally, I was on FPX Suning, and obviously, they both got swept. So, not a very good call. But I think we did allude to the fact that the JDG Suning matchup was certainly going to be a close one. It didn't turn out that way, but
Yep.
I think either team winning wouldn't have been a surprise to anybody. And then, I didn't like WE at all, just coming off 3 straight sweeps, but we did at least acknowledge that they have upside and that they should be a good team, while also saying that I wasn't going to play them. So, hopefully we at least gave people things to think about, and hopefully their lineups were a little better than mine anyway. But yeah, I mean, the WE thing's a little bit surprising just because they'd been so bad. I think if they had come into that series not getting swept 3 straight times, I would have been a little more receptive to them winning. But they do have a good lineup, so it wasn't like the craziest thing we've seen this year. So, but yeah, it was a little frustrating.
What I thought was funny with the other matchup, because I don't think anybody's going in yesterday thinking WE's beating FPX. Like, you play them because you know what can happen for your DFS lineups if they win, but like, I don't think you're going in thinking like, yes, they're going to win.
Right.
But the other one, we kind of made, I brought up how like JDG and Suning have been involved in sweeps in all but one of their combined series this year. And we were like, it's probably 2-1. And of course, it's just another sweep. But like, we were almost like, a sweep on either side is not going to be shocking. Like, you like the Suning side, but you didn't like dislike the JDG side. We just, you got to take a stand at some point.
It was mostly just a product. Being on Suning was mostly just a product of really liking FPX, to be honest, and thinking that Suning were certainly a viable underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Just got it wrong. Not the first or the last thing I'll get wrong this year.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take stands, and obviously, at least what we try to do in these videos is try to explain, who's expected to win, and usually that helps you figure out who the chalk is going to be, and then it's really up to each individual person who's playing to decide if they want to jump into that or go first and last with a WE JDG lineup. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a good enough player to come on here and like tell people what to play. I think we're just trying to give our thoughts on the slate overall and kind of let people go from there. So sorry if I'm leading anybody astray out there, but I'm trying to give all the angles basically.
I have no interest in being somebody who tells people who to play. Like, if you guys are tuning in here expecting that, then I apologize, because it's not going to happen. I'm actually much more interested in trying to figure out what everyone else is going to do, and less about how the series actually play out. So I think that's just the more relevant DFS conversation than anything else.
For sure.
So this one on Tuesday's kind of tricky. We've got EDG is the biggest favorite against BLG. Top Esports favorite against LNG, but the odds are basically the same. Not in terms of TES and LNG, but Top and Edward Gaming are almost exactly the same sized favorite. There's no way that you're playing both of them together unless you use a non-carry captain, which we were just saying yesterday you may not want to do anymore. Right. So how on earth do we attack this?
Yeah, well, going back to just yesterday about the jungler, so they're still on the 11.3 patch. So
okay.
The jungle didn't get nerfed quite yet. Probably next week, I'm assuming that'll happen. So junglers maybe are still viable, but yeah, you really can't stack up EDG and Top Esports unless you do like a one-off somewhere with one of the underdogs, or you use the junglers or non-carry options in your captain spot. But yeah, I think when people first look at this slate, I think they're probably going to think Top Esports win, EDG win, and that's, in fairness, I side with the chalk a lot, honestly. So this is going to be another case where I mean that's how I think, but I think these series, there's quite a bit to unpack because it's not so straightforward for sure. So if we start with that, EDG BLG, series, which is the first one on the slate tomorrow, 4 a.m. Eastern time. EDG's been the best team in the league so far. They're undefeated, 7-0. They've only lost 2 games in their series, and they've been awesome. So it's hard really not to side with them to continue this winning streak against BLG, who are pretty good, honestly, but they're more like a mid-table team. You know what I mean? So they can definitely they're a team that can punch above their weight, but sometimes lose. They usually lose to the big dogs. They can't quite get over that hurdle. And they sometimes, can disappoint by losing to some of the teams that they're perceived to be better than. But, if you look at the rosters, it's kind of why I like EDG here, besides the fact that they're undefeated and top of the league.
Right.
If you go down the roster, they're just, on paper, pretty much every role is better, right? Like, we're going to take Scout over Zika. We like Viper over, Aiming. Yeah, sorry. Mine went blank for a second. But I can say though that like Viper, yeah, he's probably a better player than Aiming, but that doesn't mean that Aiming is a bad player. Same with Zika, but Zika's just not like the meta right now. Kind of hurt Zika because last year we saw him be really good on more like assassin type picks, like Collies and things of that nature. Where right now it's pretty much control mages in the mid, and that's a zone where Scout really thrives. Mm-hmm. So we give him the advantage there. The only role where I think we can say that BLG is better is in the jungle. I think Meteor might be a slightly better player than JJ, okay. But it's like marginal, right? So that's kind of why I'm siding with EDG there. I just think they're the better team top to bottom. And as we move on to the next series, it's kind of the same deal, right? Yeah. Like it's very similar. Like I think top to bottom, Top Esports have the better lineup. But LNG are close, especially in key roles like the mid jungle duo. I think Tarzan and Icon aren't quite as good of players as Karsa and Knight. Maybe you could say Tarzan's better than Karsa. I think that's a little closer. But most people are going to still side with Knight as one of the best players in the league. So it's hard to say that they're better than their Top Esports counterparts, but are they good enough to challenge them and potentially take a game in the series? Yeah, I think they are. It's more so that guys like Jackie Love are the bigger gap for that series. So that's my rationale for leaning with the chalk. Is I think these EDG and Top Esports are just better top to bottom. But I think we do need to acknowledge the fact that BLG and LNG are like that next tier of team. And could certainly come out with a win tomorrow. So it's definitely not a straightforward one. Almost nothing has been straightforward this year, though, so that shouldn't be too much of a surprise.
Right. I mean, do you have a lean on whether Top or Edward Gaming are going to be more popular?
Oh man, not really.
Like it doesn't seem like there's anything that separates them.
No, not really. I mean, maybe more people go to EDG because they're undefeated and they've been better overall this year. Top Esports have been kind of up and down. I mean, they're only 3-3, right? They really haven't performed up to their lofty standards from last year. So I think probably EDG are the chalk, would be my guess, just because they're 7-0 top of the league. And then I would expect Top Esports to be behind them, LNG behind them, and then BLG as your lowest owned is probably what I would assume anyway, just on the nature of these matchups.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So obviously trying to get both EDG and Top, like I think there are a few double jungle lineups that fit if you want both. Certainly no carries. If you play the one-off game, do you think I think you just said it, that LNG seems more likely to take a game off of TES than BLG off of EDG, right?
Yep, I think so. It wouldn't be too much of a shock if both these series end up 2-1 tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But I think I would feel more comfortable saying that LNG, if we're gonna say one of these is going to be a sweep and one's going to be a 2-1, I think that the LNG Top Esports series is the one that has the higher likelihood of getting to a game 3. So maybe you can get your one-off from LNG and like the team slot or something. I mean, we're seeing team slot one-offs be pretty popular on these 2-game slates because it's a way you can jam in two carries from the favored teams. And even if your team only scores like 7 points, maybe you make up for it, with two sweeps for all your players. So that could be a popular way to go tomorrow, just to jam in two of the carry options from these favored teams.
Yeah, I think the way that we have to look at it is, kind of the realistic range of winning team slots is like 50 to 60-ish. Let's just call it that.
Right.
But teams in sweeps or teams that get swept, the range is like 5 to 15. Like it's really low.
Right.
And so I think what you have to do on this slate is the difference between whatever the losing swept team is, and that doesn't mean that they get swept, but like if you want to play it as LNG and BLG get swept and you want to jam in a Viper and Jackie Love, it seems like the top lane is where you probably try to give up like a one-off, just because that one tends to be less likely to go off, at least league-wide.
Right. It's just the nature of the beast with that role, right?
Yeah.
Like they're just not. We've seen like sometimes top laners can come out and like finish with the second or even sometimes like the highest amount of kills, but then they're still like second lowest or lowest in kill participation. Right. So it just kind of caps their overall score a lot of the time. And those games where they do finish as the with the most kills on the team or whatever, they're pretty few and far between too. So unfortunately for top lane, it's the role I play in the game, poorly admittedly, but it's the role that just gets ignored a lot. Like a lot of times you're just basically playing on an island, so it just caps the overall point totals of the role. So yeah, I mean, like if people want to go for like a player one-off, then it's probably in the top lane. I mean, it's just like seems so foolish to do a one-off from like a jungle AD carry or mid lane, because if they get swept, you're just not. Yeah. You're giving up so many points compared to the winning players in those roles that it's hard to imagine that being viable. And I mean, in any of except for like the craziest scenarios, So
yeah, and it seems like the hope at least is so you're basically trying to hope that the difference between your one-off top laner is less than 50 points, or I'm looking at like it could be a 50-point difference between TES team slot and LNG team slot.
Right.
And if you think that 369 scores 32 points more than whoever, who did we say was in the top lane for LNG? Ale, right. So like if that's only a 30-point difference, then that's where the one-off should be. Like it's as simple as that. That doesn't mean that's going to happen, but like
no.
I think those are really the only reasonable one-offs on this slate, just because like why would you ever try to build a lineup with a one-off and not get Viper and Jackie Love?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Like that just seems like a foolish way to build a lineup to me personally. Those two guys are two of the three highest scoring players on this slate, right? So Aiming actually has more kills than Jackie Love, but those are the three players with the most amount of kills on this slate. So you're really hurting your upside, especially if both these series end up as sweeps. If you're playing a carry from one of the losing teams.
I mean, it's probably hitting tomorrow. So now that we've said,
it's like at that point, like if you're going to one-off an AD carry, why not just stack that AD carries team and hope for a full-on upset? In my opinion, like it doesn't really make sense to go in thinking that this guy's Aiming's gonna lose, but I'm still gonna play him. Like I'd rather just play him and play Mark and play the team slot for BLG and then 4-stack top esports or vice versa if you want to do it with LNG. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to one-off a carry from a team I think is going to lose. I'd rather just go for the full short stack and hope they upset.
Right. It just seems like if they score well enough, if you think the AD carry is going to score well enough, then yeah, I totally agree. Just play everybody else because
for sure.
The possibility that they E-star it, and but that's not even like a situation here. Like I'm going into this thinking that even if Aiming scores well, but in a loss, then Viper and everyone else from EDG crushes.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you, man, for sure. It just doesn't make sense to me to one off a carry from a losing team.
All right, I'm glad we.
Especially, these series are not the ones that are the losing team is gonna outscore the winning team, right? Like I don't think so anyway. That we usually see that when it's like two crappy teams that don't know how to finish each other off or whatever. So I can't see that. I can't see that happening tomorrow either.
Right, like if it was BLG LNG, we'd consider it.
Yeah, maybe. Although they're kind of at the level like where they shouldn't be doing that either.
They shouldn't be doing it.
In wins, they should be outscoring the team they beat. But
That's
when
fair.
Rogue Warriors and OMG get together,
there we
that's
go.
When we expect shenanigans.
Right. Right. So given that we expect a lot out of EDG and TES, like I'm not sure I'm seeing a game stack situation on this slate.
No, I don't think so either. I just think the teams that win are going to outscore the teams that lose. But I never like game stacks really, right? So I don't know, man.
It just seems like game stacks work.
It could happen, like I guess we could throw out that BLG have the most kills of any team on this slate, and they also have the most deaths of any team on this slate. So maybe if one of these is going to pop off with a game stack, maybe it's that series. BLG have the most deaths on this slate by a wide margin. Now, they've played a lot more games than the other three teams. But
even average-wise,
they have 282 deaths on the year, and the next closest is LNG with 163. So that's a pretty wide margin. So maybe that, if one of these series has game stack potential, I think it's probably EDG, BLG, but I'm not going that route as is pretty much always. I never do.
I haven't done it yet, so I'm not gonna start doing it now. No thanks. All right, if you guys have enjoyed the video, if you could please hit the like button below. Feel free to subscribe to all the RotoWire videos, and also feel free to subscribe to RotoWire. If you want to try it for free for 10 days, just go to rotowire.com/pod. That's POD. Like I said, 10 free days, no credit card required, access to all of our sports, League of Legends, NBA, soccer, NHL. It's all going on right now, so check that out. Ethan, thank you very much, and good luck on Tuesday.
All right, man. I may have lost today, but I'm well on my way to those 5,000 crowns achievement.
That's right. Crowns over dollars.
That's right. All right, man. Talk to you tomorrow.